Back in May, after so much waiting, Sega presented Sonic Central. This was a way to update fans on different things involving our favorite blue argument starter, Sonic. While there was some crossovers, a shiny new animated series, well, the details for it, and the announcement of an upcoming brand new Sonic game, we got the announcement of a remaster of Sonic Colors, one of the more liked games in the franchise. It was a continuation of the boost formula which made its debut in Sonic Unleashed on consoles, but this time the Werehog stages were removed entirely and the day stages had some changes that I'll go over later. In 2018, I finally booted up Sonic Colors for the first time and didn't really care for it. Back then I was a bit more harsh towards the boost gameplay as it had slowly become my least favorite console gameplay style for the blue blur, so I didn't see much in Sonic Colors. These days I've lightened my stance to these games on repeat playthroughs. It's still my least favorite type of gameplay, but there were bits and pieces of each boost game that I either enjoyed or saw some potential in. What's the point of bringing this up? I just want to give you an idea of how I felt about the original. That's all. I'm going to go out of my way to give Sonic Colors Ultimate as fair of an assessment as I can with this review. I even played the original game one day before the remaster is released in early access, so that I may familiarize myself with the game again. Speaking of that remaster, as we got closer to the game's release, we got to see earlier versions of the game in action. There were many who were concerned about the presentation, the possible performance of the game, and how some of the new additions would be implemented. Hell, I made a video voicing my concerns. Then, they won us back with a Baby Sonic keychain. Sorry, I'm still salty about the baddest collector's bundle that Japan got. This thing is freaking cool! With the game releasing in early access, it's finally time for people who paid for the digital deluxe edition to see if this remaster was worth getting. And it's also time for me to acknowledge that this sentence no longer makes any sense because the game has been out for a few days. Sorry for getting this video out so late. Before I go any further, I want to thank Sega for providing a review code for Sonic Colors Ultimate on Xbox One. However, the Switch version, which will also be mentioned in this video, was bought by myself. I pre-ordered it, and I got the keychain. For further transparency, the Xbox version will be played on an Xbox One S. There was some Nintendo Switch footage, and there's also going to be mention of the original where I see fit. So you're going to be seeing footage of all three games. And just to let you know, the Wii version was recorded on a Nintendo Wii U through HDMI. So with that out of the way, is Sonic Colors Ultimate worth your time and money? Let's find out. Sonic Colors Ultimate was not really developed in-house, but by Blind Squirrel Games, a studio that has worked on many remasters and enhancements for other franchises such as BioShock the Collection, the Borderlands enhancement update on PC, and most recently the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, a remaster of the original Mass Effect trilogy. From first-hand experience, their work on BioShock and the Borderlands games were pretty solid, and I've heard some positive things about the Mass Effect remaster. So from their track record, this studio should be a perfect match. Like squirrels and, you know what, let's not go with that one. Sonic and chili dogs. Let's go with that, okay? To jump the gun a bit, there's no mention of chili dogs anywhere in the game.
I grabbed a bite at the bucket of sushi.
What's the verdict?
His cruelty knows no bounds.
It's just a funny thing I wanted to point out, so let's move on. I want to quickly breeze through the story, and the reason should be obvious. There isn't really much of a story going on. Sonic and Tails sneak into Dr. Eggman's interplanetary amusement park out of suspicion and see that he, along with the returning Orbot and debuting Cubot, are capturing these alien creatures called Wisps. Eggman's plan is to use their powers for his mind control device to take over Earth. A lone white wisp, called the Acker, is the one who points Sonic and Tails in the right direction throughout the story. It is discovered that there are generators on each planet that Sonic must destroy, to release the others from Eggman's grasp. This leads to a final showdown between Sonic and Eggman where all the Wisps assist in defeating the evil Doctor. Once he is defeated, Yacker says goodbye to our heroes, and that's the game. It's supposed to be a goodbye for good, but they come back in the next game. And the next game. Oh well. There isn't much to the story, and what is there is a bunch of one-liners, catchphrases, jokes that fall flat, and a lot of moments where Tails' translator isn't working properly. I know that's supposed to fit into the jokes fall flat, but they come back to this joke often throughout this game. Once I realized this, I pretty much ignored the dialogue. So yeah, the BBBE, the no copyright law, the excessive mention in clobberings, and other attempts at humor didn't really do it for me. The good thing is that you can skip the cutscenes if all you want is to get back into the action. In fact, let's get into the action. Sonic Colors' gameplay is a return to the high-speed boost gameplay which made its debut in Sonic Unleashed on consoles. The jumping, homing attack, boost, stomp, sidestep, and drift all make a return, but some had to have some adjustments to accommodate the Wii's multiple controller options. The sidestep is only activated by moving the analog stick left or right. It worked in the original because of the Wii mode only control scheme. In Ultimate, it could have been mapped to the shoulder buttons because it feels easier to accidentally shift into another lane. The drift is now relegated to specific areas like the sidestep and disables the boost. This means all you can do is slowly drift around a big turn, and then you can return to having fun. Once again in Ultimate, this would have been improved if the drift was changed to the triggers, like in Sonic Unleashed or Generations. These would bring the remasters on par with the more natural feeling controls. Also changed from Unleashed is the boost. The meter for the boost does not fill up with rings or defeating bad Knux. This time the meter fills up from collecting the white wisps. These can be collected by breaking open capsules and defeating specific enemies. In Ultimate, the meter can also be filled up by performing what is called a perfect homing attack. As the reticle pops up, an empty section will fill up with green. Hitting the homing attack then will turn into a perfect homing attack. It doesn't do more damage, but it does look cool. It also lets you launch farther when you're on these swings as if you were boosting into it. When it comes to this implementation of the boost, I think it's better to not give it to players so easily. It gives the player a chance to take in the level that they're playing. Nothing wrong with going a little slower, especially when the player is required to do some platforming. Now, Sonic's jump is a little floaty, but it alone will not make every single jump, which is why there is the double jump. I don't normally associate precision platforming with Sonic, so this double jump is an incredibly useful addition. After Act 2, the game slowly gives you access to the other wisps. They're the power-ups of this game and will give you abilities that can also assist in finding other routes and collectibles. There's the Cyan Laser, which will let Sonic shoot in any direction he is facing. He can bounce off walls and these floating diamonds. There is a line that should allow a player to aim, but in Ultimate it's a little hard to see. The change in Ultimate is that it lets you aim in any direction and you can take as long as you want to aim. This makes it a lot easier to figure out exactly where you want to hit before the game just kind of lets you go. Though there are some unintended results that also come from this. On top of that, it occasionally makes doubles of Sonic or the Diamond or even both. After a while you can get used to it, but it's such an unnecessary challenge to get it right. Next is the yellow drill wisp that will allow Sonic to go through the ground and swiftly navigate underwater. You can find different routes with these green tubes that look a little familiar. It's a fun power-up to use when you're not stuck to a wall or something. The only risk is if your meter runs out underground, Sonic dies. The blue cube wisp will turn these big blue rings into cube platforms and vice versa. Not only that, but they'll destroy nearby enemies and these specific blocks as well. The green hover wisp will allow Sonic to hover for a short period of time and fly through a trail of rings. The meter never goes down as long as you're going through these trail of rings, so that's very convenient. The pink spike wisp will give Sonic the ability to cling onto walls or other surfaces. He can even perform a spin dash as well with it, so return to the spin dash, everyone. The orange burst wisp lets Sonic shoot up in the sky or ceiling, and the purple frenzy will give him the power to consume everything in sight. The more he consumes, the larger he gets, and I'll be honest, the frenzy has got to be the most fun. The senseless destruction you can cause is what does it for me. The new addition to Sonic Colors Ultimate is the Jade Ghost Wisp, a wisp that made its debut in Team Sonic Racing. It gives Sonic the ability to phase through walls using these orbs that spawn as soon as you activate it. Think of the little pool orbs from Mario Galaxy, except you can phase through walls with them. You can also latch onto enemies too. It's a cool idea because it can take players to areas that were inaccessible in the original game. But there are some drawbacks with it. Some of the areas you gain access to don't have a visual indicator that you're meant to be there. It just looks off. Also, there were moments where it just didn't work. Like at all. I think it's cool to have a new wisp with this ability, but it comes off as tacked on. It's rare when they're useful outside of the segment they're meant to be used in. Cool idea, but feels like an afterthought. Don't believe me? Check out the cutscenes, the credits, the title screen. Not there. The levels are a bit of a mixed bag for me. While I could love going at top speed through some of the 2D and 3D sections, it does seem like there are more hallway-like areas and automated sections than I would like to go through. It feels like I'm on autopilot sometimes and takes me away from the experience. Then again, more 3D would be nice if Sonic felt great to control in 3D. He's a little difficult to turn when he's just running around. There are some specific segments I'd like to talk about that I really didn't care for. I never cared for the areas where you needed to sidestep to take out enemies or avoid them. For Asteroid Coaster, it's the entire level. Going around the ring of Not Saturn, you need to knock out the Motobugs until this button appears, which will unlock the final portion to get to the goal ring. Yes, that is a level. In Aquarium Park, there is this last segment where you have to run away from a big chaser. Stay too close and he'll attack Sonic. Go too far and he'll shoot a laser at you. In Ultimate, the middle laser is tough to see since the charge light is behind the model. And on the Switch version, the light is non-existent, so you'll need to be ready to avoid this laser, if you can. Now, the idea behind this section wouldn't be too bad, but in terminal velocity, You are allowed to jump over the punches of this other big chaser. Why does it change how I can play through these areas? I don't find it very entertaining. As for the 2D levels, while I do enjoy some of the levels that get me to do a lot of platforming, I can really appreciate that, it's the damn filler levels that make me not want to boot up this game again. The ones that forces you to use the Wisp can go away, but the worst offenders have got to be the spring levels. And it's only in certain sections where you can actually go at your own speed, but then in vertical sections, you have to go at the game's speed. These things are not fun and ruin what would be a solid game. One more thing to bring up, and it only really has to do with the 2D sections, rather than entire 2D levels. Anywhere that has these spikes that are tossed out in the original game, in Ultimate, the rate of it is increased. Same goes for enemies dropping from the sky. At first I thought it was tied to the frame rate, so the Nintendo Switch version would be excluded from this, however, it's not. The boss fights would be interesting if they weren't super easy or recycled. The only boss that isn't recycled completely is the Nega Mother Wisp, who attempts to use the wisps against you. It's pretty cool for a final fight, though I will say it's still on the easy side. If I had to give one more compliment, I will say it's nice that the game gives the player a chance to get a higher rank with the placement of the boss's weakness somewhere in the level. Whether it's in plain sight or hidden pretty well, it's fine. I should mention the ranks because there's more to the game than just play it and put it down. In every level, you're ranked on different variables: ring count, time, and others. The others would be the drift, wisp, tricks, which return from Unleashed and are just mash A to get the bonus, and the red star rings that the players can collect in each level. And the more you collect, the easier it is to get an A rank because you're given 30,000 points. Some levels make it easy to get the S ranks, while others make you have to come back and get them later because you need to obtain a specific wisp. As for the red star rings, for the same reason, you'll need to come back to these levels after you've unlocked the other wisps. Dying has an impact on your ring count and the red star ring count. It'll remove all of your rings and revert your red rings back to what you had to the previous checkpoint. In Ultimate, lives are replaced with the Tails save tokens as they are part of the new Tails save system. It works like this: when you fall into a bottomless pit, Tails will come to get you and bring you back to the obstacle you died at. All of the rings and red rings collected will stay with you. This will make it so much easier to obtain the S ranks and give you more opportunities to get all the red star rings without having a larger setback. As much as I would prefer this to be an option because Sonic Colors is one of the easier games in the franchise, if it gets more players into the game, then it's fine. I'm a firm believer that keeping the original game's difficulty intact should be on the minds of the devs, as well as creating a more accessible remaster. That's my 2 cents on the whole feature, so let's get back to the red rings. Speaking of the red star rings, getting 15 of these in each planet will unlock Metal Rush mode for that planet. These are nothing but a glorified time trial with cheaply made assets. They take up one level each world, and most of them make sense. Starlight Carnival, on the other hand, doesn't. Since there are some sections that are automated, the game just has you accept the "Do you accept" screen, and you're good to race Metal Sonic. Although someone's gonna have to tell him to change the internet because that latency will cost him. Back to the red rings. Getting enough will unlock the levels in Gameland, or the Sonic Simulator. It's a 21 level section that will have bits and pieces of other levels incorporated. And I'll be completely honest, the coolest part of it was noticing the Sonic 1 levels that were recreated in here. Look, I love Sonic 1, and I wish I had recorded my initial reactions to these, because it took me a while to notice it. But once I noticed it, I freaked out and I thought that was awesome. Beating the 3 levels in each world will give you a Chaos Emerald that corresponds with that world, and beating all 21 levels will give you Super Sonic. He has an unlimited boost and is obviously invincible. The only downside is that he no longer has access to the Wisp abilities, which means some levels had to be altered to accommodate for this. Thankfully, you can disable Super Sonic through the Options planet, though I wish there was a better method than going in and out of planets. Maybe something like press or hold the left bumper before you select a level. I guess now, we can get into the visuals. This game's presented at a higher resolution and has higher resolution textures. In fact, going up to 4K on all platforms except for the Switch. The game also runs at 60 FPS on all platforms except for the Switch. But even then, there were many times where I noticed that the game's frame rate would drop, the game would stutter, and at times levels took a long time to load. There were points where I assumed the game was just going to crash, which is something that other players have experienced. On the What? $40. This is a $40 video game. This is what Sega is okay with releasing out to people for $40. There were some other issues I had with the presentation of the game, and I might as well just go over them right now, like Tropical Resort, Starlight Carnival, and Asteroid Coaster. I found the bloom to be a little too distracting, and in Tropical Resort's case, why are there bright lights but have really dark buildings? It doesn't make any sense. What's even crazier is that it's inconsistent because they're just weak cutscenes upscaled, which also explains the shimmering in some of them. Same goes for the artifacting and the 30 FPS. The motion blur that shows on screen when Sonic is boosting is also a little excessive. It makes it tough to take in the visuals. This and the different camera angles make it tough to see some of the customizable gloves and shoes that Sonic has. Throughout the various levels that you're playing, there will be these tokens that Sonic can collect. These will give players the ability to unlock different cosmetics, gloves, shoes, the boost aura, the boost trail, and player icons. Most of these are tacky, but I think the worst one has got to be the polka dot one, which reminds me of bread bags.
What, you don't like my bags?
Although I will say the coolest one has got to be the movie content. Aside from the icons, because I really don't care about those, the boost trail and the aura from the movie looks so cool. It's just a shame that this piece of content loves to come and go at times. And that's not all for graphical glitches and other weird things. The first one you'll notice is when Sonic jumps when he exits a level. He's supposed to not be there at first and then fade into existence. But that's not the case with Ultimate. In Asteroid Coaster, these lasers act like they're hitting a surface when they're not really touching anything. The Rotatatron's explosion went missing in Tropical Resort, so he just pops out of existence. The wall in Planet Wisp, for whatever reason, is really jittery. In Starlight Carnival, Sonic will forget to face the direction he runs at, which is pretty funny to spot actually. Speaking of Starlight Carnival, what happened to Act 3's opening? The white wisps are flat 2D images when they fly around, Metal Sonic's exhaust shoots flat images for fire, and the biggest concern is the visual glitches on the Nintendo Switch version. For the sake of this video, I will not be playing the most extreme cases, and in their place will be still images. My only exception is going to be this credit card looking mess that I was able to capture on stream. A Sega thing. Oh, I hit the B button by accident. Oops. My fault. Wait, what? What is this? This is unacceptable. Even in early access, no game should be released in this state. This is dangerous. Even though I am showing still images, these would be rapidly changing colors. And in other stages, it would only produce this image whenever I would boost. So it's either dangerous or it's unplayable because the player can't see what's going on. I could go on with this, but at this point, I'm just repeating what so many others have noticed as well. So let's get into the sound. And they botched the sound big time. I'll rattle off the issues that I have with it, like I did with the graphical glitches. The sound effects and sometimes the music loves to shift to one side and it's never consistent. It can go to the left side, to the right side. Sometimes the music refuses to play. Other times, the music is much quieter than the sound effects, which wouldn't be an issue if they weren't bound to the same slider. There was even an instance where the sound effects were cutting out repeatedly. It was a nightmare trying to listen to this game. But aside from that, how is the actual music in the game? Well, you're going to have most of the music that came with the original game, however you're going to have some remixes. As for the new remixes, it sucks that the ones for Planet Wisp are behind a paywall because it's nothing worth charging extra for. Look, I appreciate that every level now has its own music, but the option to switch back to the original is such a basic feature that many remixes and remasters have by default. Trials of Mana 2020, Ultra Street Fighter 2 The Final Challengers, and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition are all games which are revisits or enhancements of an older title that include the original music as an option.
Aw, is it over? That's disappointing.
So I don't get why this game doesn't receive the same treatment. Back to those remixes, they're not much to write home about. Some stand out as absolute stinkers, like Tropical Resort Act 1's bizarre piano murder at the beginning, Planet Wisp's Act 1's weird rave music that doesn't fit the section at all, and let me get this out of the way, I never liked Speak With Your Heart, but that song did not deserve to be treated the way it did. This is just straight up vile. But it's not all negative. There's a couple of diamonds in the rough in this soundtrack, and there are some straight up bangers in this one. In fact, here's a couple that I really enjoyed. So after dealing with all the glitches, playing through the game, and sitting through the 30-minute credits for an achievement, is Sonic Colors Ultimate the definitive way to play Sonic Colors? Accessibility-wise, yes. It is the most accessible way to either revisit a game or play it for the first time. Aside from that, sort of. The Nintendo Switch version is not worth it right now. It is unacceptable that a game was released to the public where dangerous graphical glitches can pop up to an unsuspecting player. Wait for a patch before considering this version. The PC, Xbox, and PlayStation versions have their own issues that do need to be addressed now. The audio bugs need to be addressed, the music and sound effects options need to be separated as soon as possible, because the audio is a mess. The graphics need to be patched to look less lazy. What I mean by that is objects and assets despawning before they go off screen, fixing animations would make an improvement to the presentation, as well as making the Wisps a 3D model, and also fixing the flame on the back of Metal Sonic's exhaust. Once the entire game was able to be viewed, it was compared to Sonic Adventure DX for its polarizing visuals and glitches that were not in the original. I'd argue that this game, when it comes to the list of issues, is worse than Adventure DX. Not only because it's the number of glitches, but the fact that we're in a time where day one patches are expected, despite not receiving one in this case. I'd also argue that on GameCube, there was a ton of content given to the player as they collected emblems. It might be older Game Gear games, but there was more content stuffed into that collection, yet Sonic Colors Ultimate just has the base game and some tacked on extras, so I will not be calling it Colors DX, but I do understand the comparison made here. I'll say this, the game doesn't look finished. Now don't get me wrong, it's playable, and the 60 FPS does make the game feel better to play. I just feel like we need a few more months for this to look and sound more like a complete product. If you're a fan of the game, then I'd recommend waiting for a patch or two to release. As someone who isn't a big fan of colors, I'd recommend waiting for a sale. Switch owners, if you can, look onto other platforms. But if you can't, again, wait for a sale, wait for a patch. With this review coming to a close, I can finally say that I won't be playing Sonic Colors for a long time. I wasn't a big fan of the game, and playing through the original once and the remaster 2.5 times to make this video made me sick of a game that I didn't really enjoy. Nor did I hate. I just shrugged as I played it. I've got one more video planned for Sonic Colors Ultimate, but that's all I'm going to say for now. I think that'll do it. Hey everyone, thank you for watching the video. I know it's a bit later than many other Sonic Colors Ultimate reviews, but I'm glad you took the time to watch mine. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like, comment, sub if you're new, click the bell icon to get notifications. And I want to thank the channel members who are supporting the channel in a bigger way with their names on screen right now, and a shout out to the super tier members who are the channel members who are paying the $5 tier. They are Dork in a Hat, Tactical Discord, Martin YT Plays, and Ultrasonic Hero. If you want your name at the end of the video and access to videos like these earlier, though this one is the exception just because of the time constraint that I was under, feel free to become a channel member, join the Patreon. Yeah, there's a Patreon now. The perks are going to be the same for both platforms, so don't feel pressure to join one over the other. And that'll just about do it. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/KnuxChannel3NK, and yeah. Hope you all have a wonderful and safe day, and I'll see you for the next video. Take care.